Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and this is the only podcast that focuses on Queens, the borough that has it all. This podcast is brought to you by the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. Together, they work tirelessly to showcase our borough as a destination filled with amazing experiences and cultural gems. Opportunities for everyone who lives here, works here, or is visiting from near or far. Summer in Queens has a way of spilling into the streets. Across the borough, public plazas become open-air living rooms, places where you can find live music and dance performances, family activities, public art, a pop-up market, neighbors catching up, and food from just about every corner of the globe. These spaces do more than give pedestrians a place to sit. They create room for community life, small businesses, and local culture, along with the unexpected encounters that make Queens feel so alive. And one of the borough's best-known public spaces is Corona Plaza. Corona Plaza sits just off 103rd Street. It's on the Corona stop on the 7 train along Roosevelt Avenue between National Street and 104th Street. And in 2012, the city converted a service road that had been dominated by traffic and parking into an interim pedestrian plaza, and it quickly became a popular gathering place and was later rebuilt as a permanent public space with seating and lighting, greenery, a performance area, and better connections to nearby transit. But the real story is how the community has made the plaza its own. Corona Plaza has become known for cultural events and a vibrant vendor market where local entrepreneurs sell food and goods that reflect the neighborhood's Latin American roots and the broader diversity of Queens. The QEDC has worked with vendors and government partners to help the market remain clean and welcoming and, of course, community-centered. Joining me this week to talk about Corona Plaza is Sanket Hendre, who's better known as Sunny in the neighborhood. Sunny is QEDC's Corona Plaza market manager, and he helps coordinate with city agencies, planning events, and enforcing the plaza's rules. And he serves as a link between street vendors, brick and mortar businesses, and of course, the surrounding community. A Jackson Heights native, he's also deeply interested in the ways that language and music and economics and history and urban space all come together in Queens. So let's get to that interview. Sunny, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you're a lifetime Jackson Heights resident. I'm not lifetime, but I've been here for more than 2 decades. How did growing up in such a diverse neighborhood shape your interests and eventually lead you to neighborhood development work at QEDC?
So I wasn't always involved in nonprofit work. Um, After graduating college, I actually worked in finance for a number of years. Just didn't really know too much about the neighborhood that I grew up in. I always knew it was diverse, but that's kind of it. When you live somewhere, you kind of take it for granted, I guess, in a way. You're just kind of used to it. But I sort of I did a bunch of things that slowly transitioned me into this. I worked for a nonprofit for a while, giving out low interest loans. They put me in Jackson Heights because I knew the neighborhood. I worked at the census for a while. I I worked at Grow NYC for a while. So, I did all these things that were kind of neighborhood oriented. And then I also did food tours in Jackson Heights when I didn't have a job.
Oh,
So
really? Oh, really? The food tours in Jackson Heights are fantastic, by the way.
yeah. And there's a lot of people doing them, and they're all great. And when I did them, it was during the 2023 era, which was like when anybody could go out there and vend, and it was just like post-pandemic. Um, but I've always had friends from a variety of backgrounds. I've always been involved in jobs where I had to speak Spanish. Um, and I was always interested in uh, helping out my fellow neighbors. So it sort of kind of all like congealed together to be this. Yeah.
So, as the manager of Corona Plaza, what does your job involve day to day? What are your biggest priorities for keeping the plaza welcoming for vendors, for nearby businesses, and of course, residents and visitors?
Oh, sure. So my okay, so our principal job day to day is to make sure that our vendors, which there are 14 vendors on any given day in Corona Plaza, are following the rules. So this program is sort of the the baby of a bunch of different organizations coming together. It's DOT, Department of Transportation, which owns the actual plaza. It's part of their public plaza program. Then we have our food vendors who sell food. So that's part of DOH, Department of Health. Then we have FDNY because they use fire to cook, right? They use propane. So that's those are those. So we make sure that everyone's following the rules every single day, that everything is kept in order. And then our sort of second and third order jobs are to activate the plaza, to report anything that's going on. We are the only people, our market, my vendors and I are the only people that are there 5 days a week. We know all the politicians, we know all the different institutions in the neighborhood. So if we need something to be, if something is broken, if something needs fixing, if there's an issue, people know to come to us. And then also because it's a public plaza, we try to activate it. We try to have events there all the time. And then I personally reach out to, let's say, local pantries or, different nonprofits that want to do things in the community. This is a free space where you can do it.
So,
Uh,
your parents, by the way, they worked as street vendors when they first came to New York. How did that experience influence the way that you approach your work today with vendors?
what's funny is so my mom, she came here in 83. She was a street vendor until about 1990. So, like right when I was born, she stopped street vending. So I actually never knew, and she never really talked about it more than like except like when we went to Chinatown, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, I used to do that," and we used to sell it on the blankets and then wrap up the blankets and leave when the cops came. Um, so it's not like I was raised from, she didn't raise me on a street vending income or anything. But looking back on it, I think it's interesting because the same place that she was in 1983 is the same place that a lot of the folks in the neighborhood are in now, you know. And you have some really old vendors that have been street vending for 20 years, like the famous tamale lady in Junction. And she put her kids through college through that, and she's a real success. But then you have really recent, more recent arrivals who aren't allowed to work in this country as anything else. So they realize, hey, well, I can cook and I can feed my own people, you know? And so you have that. So but when I speak to her, there's definitely a respect I have for street vending, I think street vendors, they bring more eyes to what would be an otherwise desolate or not as hopping area. I think that they bring crowds there. I think more people. I think they bring more good. They bring more good people. I think more good people reduces crime and it makes things easy for women to walk later at night. I think it's safer and better for everybody.
And Corona Plaza has become a closely watched model for organizing street vending while maintaining a clean, safe, and active public space. What have you learned there about balancing economic opportunity with the needs of the broader community?
Mm. So I've learned so many lessons. The one thing I'll say is that you it you have to learn to speak to everybody and to befriend everybody and to learn what everyone's motivations are and try to all work together. So in our plaza, there are a wide number of actors who act in their self-interest. There are brick and mortars make who want to make the most money that they can. There are our street vendors who also want to increase their bottom line as well. But on the other side. There are politicians, there are street vendors, gray area street vendors. Um, you have to learn to coordinate with everybody in order to share the space because it's a public space. You have to learn to, there's a lot of actors, a lot of institutions that fundamentally might not get along. If I'm a brick and mortar, maybe I don't want you as a street vendor in front of my space because you're either a competition or maybe you're not going to keep the place as clean as I would want you to. Um, I, what I've tried to do and what I try to stress to everybody around me is we all have to come to the same table. We all have to realize that we're all in this together, and so let's find a way to work together. If you want me to clean more, I will. If I want you to do something differently, I would hope you can do it. Let's all work together to make the place cleaner, safer, have more lighting, more events, and make it more fun and just make it a good neighborhood for everybody.
So let's shift over to another plaza because you recently helped to organize the Diversity Plaza Business Alliance that brings together about 15 local businesses, which I see most days because I'm walking back from the 74th Street subway station. Why was the alliance needed? What do you hope it will accomplish during its first year?
Mm. So when you go to Diversity Plaza, it's a little different than Corona Plaza. What do you see? You see it seems like it's chaotic. It's a bunch of street vendors. It's a small and narrow plaza. So it's not like Corona where it's like a huge space where you can just kind of wander around. There you see a lot of men in groups, older men smoking or drinking tea. Um, so we realized that, nobody was really happy with the way Diversity Plaza was. Everybody had complaints. There was a lot of there's a lot of homeless people. There were a lot of there's a lot of political activity that goes on there. We thought, let's take the model of Corona Plaza where you bring everybody to the same table, but let's make it slightly different and let's change it to what's culturally appropriate for diversity. So we decided there's a strong business community there. They all know each other, and they all, they're culturally all the same as well, pretty much. They might be from different countries, but culturally they share one sort of integral South Asian sort of experience. Um, so we we went and we're lucky because our biggest supporter is the oldest business in the area, which is Kebab King. And because he's been there so long, he actually understands the value of what a business alliance can do. Um, which is they can go as an alliance, as a unified organization, they can go to different institutions like the DOT, like NYPD, FDNY, DSNY, and they can ask for things. They can tell them how they would like to see their neighborhood be, and they can actually get something. As one person, your voice only goes so far, but as an organization, you can go much farther.
So when you, a year from now, for instance, how will you measure whether this effort is succeeding?
So what we wanted, what we've been doing is creating sort of a 10-point plan, the 10 things that they would like to see, and then 2 ways that they can achieve that within each of the 10. Because the thing with government is you can complain to them all you want, but that's not going to get you far. If you have an idea for how you want it to be executed, oh, we don't like the vagabondism here, but I have an idea. Let's bring security in. Plus, then they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. I could do that. I might be able to do that for you. I might be able to pay for this. I might be able to get. So we have a 10-point plan. We're going to we're gonna think of a way to execute it, and then we're gonna get in front of the right people, all the government uh, alphabet soup organizations that we can get in front of in order to actually execute it.
So you've worked with vendors in different communities right now and been involved in overseeing plaza activities. How do the needs of each neighborhood differ? I'm just curious if there's lessons you kind of carry from one community to the next.
Mm. Well, overall, a textbook study says that both plazas and both neighborhoods suffer from the same things, which are alcoholism and people that don't have a home that are there hanging out. Um, the same place that makes both things really cool, the fact that it's a third space for men, for older men, is the same thing that brings the trouble. Because, what do a lot of these folks do when they come together? They drink. When they get drink, they're wild, they're gambling, and that causes issues. So it's definitely safety, and then it's cleanliness. Cleanliness is a huge thing in both areas. Um, I would say the difference is that in Corona Plaza, you can get people to work together. In Corona Plaza is just innately more family like. People do come with their families and their children, and we've actually activated it as a space for kids. We got this organization Street Lab to come and put these like water slides and this reading station. We have concerts all the time. So it, it lends itself more to that. Diversity Plaza, I don't see any water slides there anytime soon.
No, yeah, me either. Me either.
Yeah, and yeah.
A lot of what you do, by the way, Sonny, is about communicating, and you speak Hindi and you're learning Spanish. This must be very valuable. I'm curious, how have languages helped you build these relationships in the neighborhoods?
Well, simply put, I wouldn't have been able to work in either without having these language skills. My Spanish has greatly improved since I first started in Corona Plaza 3 years ago. But I've always worked in within the Spanish speaking community in New York. So, and you're dealing with people that are either monolingual, they're mostly bilingual, but a lot of them don't have the confidence to speak in English, or you kind of sort of have to bring it out of them in a way. So being bilingual in both areas is cool because it helps you understand what they're trying to say on a more intimate level, what
And
they actually mean.
and before we wrap up, what do you like the most about your job?
Oh man, this is my friends always joke and say, Sonny, you finally found a job that fits you exactly. Like they're like, we can't even believe this there was even a job like this. It, I love everything about it. Uh, I love talking to people. I love being up and out and in the community. I love having to deal with different organizations and people and trying to put things together in different ways. It's a lot more fun than anything I used to do before, which was just sit behind a computer and do financial analysis, you
This,
know?
yeah, this sounds much more exciting, by the way. So,
For sure, for sure.
so please let our listeners know, Sonny, where they should go if they want to learn more about you and the work that you do, and of course, the work of QEDC.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, you can visit our Instagrams at coronaplazamarket.com. We're soon going to have a Diversity Plaza page. Right now, you can go to at Friends of Diversity Plaza. You can go to diversityplaza.org. We have our website for QEDC called queensny.org. Uh, we have our events page. You can find out all the neat stuff going on in Queens, which there's a million things to do, and not just in the summer, throughout the year. And that's called It's in Queens. If you just type in It's in Queens, all one word, you'll see the myriad of events and things going on. And lastly, just come by, just come and eat all the food in Diversity Plaza. You're bound to just walk into either a political protest or some cool event that's going on. In Corona Plaza, come by and eat from our vendors and then keep walking around. You might see some preachers preaching, or you might see a concert that we're having that day, or a cultural event, or an Ecuadorian cultural dance, or Dia de los Muertos. We always have a Dia de Muertos event every end of October, early November. So yeah, just come by, enjoy yourself, bring your friends, bring whoever you're with, and yeah, and stay around for a while.
Very good. Sonny Hendre, I want to thank you so much for appearing here on this week's It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you so much, Chef. It was a pleasure.
Thanks again to Sunny. Corona Plaza is one of the vivid examples of why summer in Queens can feel like a season long neighborhood festival because on any given day, you can move from an outdoor concert to a food market, to a dance performance, to a community celebration, or to a park that's filled with families and often without ever having to leave the borough. And because Queens is so large and so varied, there's always another neighborhood venue or event to discover. And if you're looking for something to do this month or next, well, we have you covered because that's where Rob Mackay comes in. He's with the QEDC and the Queens Tourism Council. And each week, he highlights some of the more exciting events that are happening across the borough. Let's hear what he has to say this week.
Hello, Jeffrey. Rockaway is making a lot of beautiful noise these days through a festival that is called Rock Away! It actually just started this last weekend, but it's going on for the next 3 weekends. That is until August 16th. There are more than 40 bands. A lot of it is rock and roll. Some are emerging, some are established. There's also a fair amount of jazz, folk, punk, reggae, and other kind of genres. And the concerts, which are all free, are taking place in a bunch of different places, including the Rockaway Beach Amphitheater, Reese Beach, the Walkaway, where all the concessions are, the Rose Den, Postcard Brewing, and other places. And as part of the fun, the organizers are also going to present a few art installations and art engagements. So yes, the name is Rock Away! And it is a great musical festival that's going on weekends until August 16th. Hope to see you at any of them. All right, bye.
That's just a few of the things that are happening in Queens. And this coming month brings even more reasons to get out and explore the borough. There's the Hong Kong Dragon Boat Festival. There's also the, of course, anniversary edition of the Festival of Cinema NYC. It is their 10th anniversary. There's also the Queensboro Dance Festival finale at Queens Theater. And of course, towards the end of the month, U.S. Open Fan Week returns at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. Remember, the place to go to discover and explore everything that's on the horizon is so easy to remember. It's at the It's in Queens website at itsinqueens.com. And if you're interested in more business news, how to help your business or friends or family members, well, then head right over to queensny.org. That's the QEDC's website. And when you're there, take a moment, fill out the form, and sign up for their newsletter because that way you'll get notified right in your inbox about opportunities. And by the way, when you visit Corona Plaza or any plazas in Queens this summer, stop a moment and, well, take a photo or two. Put them on Instagram or on X and tag us. Use the hashtag It's in Queens because when we discover your photo, it could become our photo of the week. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and that's it for this week's It's in Queens podcast.